biological diversity and its conservation. There is an enormous diversity of life on our planet Earth. More than 20,000 species of ants, 3 lakh species of beetles, 28,000 species of fishes, and nearly 20,000 species of orchids. What is biodiversity? Biodiversity or biological diversity is the occurrence of various types of ecosystem, different species of organisms with the whole range of their variants and genes adapted to different climates, environments, along with their interactions and processes. The term biodiversity was coined by Walter G. Rosen in 1985. However, the term biodiversity was popularized by social biologist Edward Wilson in 1992. Biodiversity differs from place to place. It is so because environmental conditions of the area as well as the range of tolerance of the species determine whether or not a particular species can survive in that area. Biodiversity has 3 interrelated hierarchical levels. Biological diversity and its conservation. There is an enormous diversity of life on our planet Earth. More than 20,000 species of ants, 3 lakh species of beetles, 28,000 species of fishes, and nearly 20,000 species of orchids. What is biodiversity? Biodiversity or biological diversity is the occurrence of various types of ecosystem, different species of organisms with the whole range of their variants and genes adapted to different climates, environments, along with their interactions and processes. The term biodiversity was coined by Walter G. Rosen in 1985. However, the term biodiversity was popularized by social biologist Edward Wilson in 1992. Biodiversity differs from place to place. It is so because environmental conditions of the area as well as the range of tolerance of the species determine whether or not a particular species can survive in that area. Biodiversity has 3 interrelated hierarchical levels. So the 3 levels of biodiversity includes genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecosystem diversity. Genetic diversity, it is a diversity in the number and types of genes and chromosomes within same species and variation in genes and their alleles within same species. Variations in the genes of a species increases with increase in size and environmental parameters of the habitat. Genetic diversity results in polymorph formation and is useful in adaptation to changes in environmental conditions. Example, 50,000 genetically different strains of rice and 1,000 varieties of mango present in India. Species diversity. Variety in number and richness of species of a region comprises species diversity. Number of species per unit area is called as species richness, and number of individuals of different species represent species evenness. It influences biotic interactions and stability of the community. Ecological diversity. Biodiversity on a wider scale includes variations in biological communities, the ecosystem of existing communities, and interactions among these levels. It is of 3 types: alpha, beta, and gamma diversity. In alpha diversity, species diversity within a community or habitat depends on species richness and evenness. In beta diversity, it is the diversity between communities due to replacement of species within change in the habitat. In gamma diversity, the ranges of communities due to diverse habitats or ecosystems over a total landscape or a geographical area. Magnitude of biodiversity. According to IUCN, that is International Union for Conservation of Nature, in 2002 said the total number of plant and animal species described so far is slightly more than 1.5 million. Considering that an overwhelming large proportion of the species waiting to be discovered are in the tropics, and biologists make a statistical comparison of the temperate tropical species richness of an exhaustively studied group of insects and extrapolate this ratio to other groups of animals and plants to come up with a gross estimate of the total number of species on Earth. Some extreme estimates range from 20 to 50 million, but more conservative and scientifically sound estimate made by Robert May places the global species diversity at about 7 million. More than 70% of all the species recorded are animals, while plants include algae, fungi, bryophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms comprise no more than 22% of the total. That means out of every 10 animals on these plants, 7 are insects. The number of fungi species in the world is more than the combined total of the species of fishes, amphibians, reptiles and mammals. India has only 2.4% of the world's land area. India has only 2.4% of the world's land area. However, its share of the global species diversity is an impressive 8.1%. India is one of the 12 mega diversity countries of the world. India has been divided into 10 biogeographical regions, that is Trans-Himalayas, Himalayas, Desert, Semi-Arid, Western Ghats, Deccan Peninsula, Ganga Plain, and the Northeast, Marine Coast and Indian Islands. Nearly 45% of species of plants and twice as many of animals have been recorded from India. It is estimated that there are probably more than 1 lakh plant species and more than 3 lakh animal species yet to be discovered and described. Endemic species are those species that are confined to particular region. Example, Western Ghats are rich in endemic amphibian species comparing to Eastern Ghats. Patterns of biodiversity. Biodiversity is not uniform throughout the world. It varies with the changes in latitude and altitude. For many groups of animals and plants, there are specific pattern diversity based on the favorable environmental conditions, as plants and animals are more diverse in areas which are best suited for their survival. Latitudinal gradients. The diversity of plants and animals is not uniform throughout the world, but shows a rather uneven distribution. For many groups of animals or plants, there are interesting patterns in diversity, and the most well being the latitudinal gradient in diversity. In general, species diversity decreases as we move away from the equator towards the pole, with very few exceptions. Tropics, that is latitudinal range of 23.5 degree north to 23 degree 5 south, harbor more species than the temperate or polar areas. Colombia, located near the equator, has nearly 1,400 species of birds, while New York at 41 degree north has 105 species, and Greenland at 71 degree north only has 56 species. India, with much of its land area in the tropical latitudes, has more than 1200 species of biodiversity. A forest in a tropical region has up to 10 times as many species of vascular plants as a forest of equal area in the temperate region like the Midwest of USA. The largely tropical Amazonian rainforest in South America has the greatest biodiversity on Earth. It is the home to more than 40,000 species of plants, 3,000 species of fishes, 1,300 of birds, 427 of mammals, 427 of amphibians, 378 of reptiles, and of more than 125,000 of invertebrates. Scientists estimate that in these rainforests there might be at least 2 million insect species waiting to be discovered and named. Ecologists and evolutionary biologists have proposed various hypotheses for greater biodiversity in tropics. Some important ones are that speciation is generally a function of time. Unlike temperate regions subjected to frequent glaciations in the past, tropical latitudes have remained relatively undisturbed for millions of years and thus had a long evolutionary time for species diversification. Tropical environments, unlike temperate ones, are less seasonal, relatively more constant and predictable. Such constant environments promote niche specialization and lead to a greater species diversity. There is more solar energy available in the tropics, which contributes to higher productivity. This in turn might contribute indirectly to greater diversity. Reasons for rich biodiversity in tropics. The tropics have more stable climate comparing the temperate. Warm temperature and high humidity in the tropical areas provide favorable conditions. No single species can dominate and thus there is an opportunity for many species to coexist. Among plants, rate of outcrossing appear to be higher in tropics. Species area relationship. German naturalist and geographer Alexander von Humboldt proposed that species richness increases with increasing area, but up to a certain limit only. The relationship between species richness and the area turned out to be a rectangular hyperbola for a wide variety of taxa. On a logarithmic scale, the relationship is a straight line described by a equation log S is equals to log C plus Z log A, where S is species richness, A is area, Z is slope of line, that is regression of coefficient, and C is y-intercept. The value of Z lies generally in the range of 0.1 to 0.2 irrespective of the taxonomic group or region, with the exception of large areas like continents where the value of Z is in range of 0.6 to 1.2. Importance of species diversity to ecosystem. The maintenance of biodiversity is very important because of ecological stability, productivity, and ecosystem health. In ecological stability, species diversity provides stability to the ecosystem. The more diverse an ecosystem, the better it can withstand the environmental stress. In ecosystem with high species diversity, alien species are unable to establish themselves, and destruction of part of ecosystem does not degrade it. Productivity. Ecosystems with higher biodiversity are more productive than those with lower biodiversity. Ecosystem health. Biodiversity provides various checks, controls, negatives and positive feedback, critical links and keystone species. All the species are interlinked through various types of relationships. The rivet popper hypothesis. It was proposed by Stanford ecologist Paul Ehrlich as an analogy. In an aeroplane, which is considered as an ecosystem, all parts are joined together using thousands of rivets, that is species. If every passenger traveling in it starts popping a rivet, causing a species to become extinct, it may not affect the flight safety, that is the proper functioning of the ecosystem initially, but as more and more rivets are removed, the plane becomes dangerously weak over a period of time. Furthermore, which rivet is removed may also be critical. Loss of rivets on the wings, that is the species that drive major ecosystem functions, is obviously a more serious threat to flight safety than a loss of few rivets on the seats or windows or inside the plane. Loss of biodiversity. The biological wealth of our planet has been declining rapidly due to human activities. The colonization of tropical Pacific islands by humans is led to the extinction of more than 2000 species of native birth. The IUCN Red List in 2004 documents the extinction of 784 species including 338 vertebrates, 359 invertebrates and 87 plants in the last 500 years. Some examples of recent extinctions include the dodo, which is found in Mauritius, quagga, which is found in Africa, thylacine in Australia, Steller sea cow in Russia, and 3 subspecies of tiger, that is Bali, Javan, and Caspian. The last 20 years alone have witnessed the disappearance of 27 species. Careful analysis of record shows that extinctions across taxa are not random. Some group like amphibians appears to be more vulnerable to the extinction. Adding to the grim scenario of extinction is the fact that more than 15,000 species worldwide are facing the threat of extinction. Presently, 12% of all bird species, 23% of all mammal species, 32% of all amphibian species, and 31% of all gymnosperm species in the world face the threat of extinction. During the long period since the origin and diversification of the life on Earth, there were 5 episodes of mass extinction of species. The current species extinction rates are estimated to be 100 to 1000 times faster than in the pre-human times, and our activities are responsible for the faster rates. Ecologists warn if the present trends continue, and nearly half of all the species on the earth might be wiped out within the next 100 years. Causes for the loss of biodiversity. The increased rate of species extinction that the world is facing are largely due to human activities. There are 4 major causes. The first is the habitat loss and fragmentation, overexploitation, alien species invasion, and co-extinction. Habitat loss and fragmentation. The main cause driving animals and plants to extinction is the destruction of natural habitats by filling wetlands, plowing grasslands, deforestation, and construction work for the development like dams, reservoirs, etc.